Hey, good morning, afternoon, evening. I hope you are doing well. It's Nigerian XJW Speaks here, otherwise known as Chigger, and I'm back with another video. If it's your first time here, hi, hello, welcome. Great to have you on. If you are returning, hey, family, I see you. Always good to have you back. So, it looks like these updates from the governing body, they are what I'm doing right now, just because they're the easiest to get out, is reacting to it instead of live real time, and actually helps me focus my criticism on where I actually want it, which is on the leadership. So these are a win all round in the meantime. Until we have a bit more time to do other things. Thanks to all the new subscribers. I see the numbers growing, which is fantastic. So thank you to everyone who's sharing, liking, subscribing. Keep doing that, because when I see that, it encourages me to do more and get more videos out. Okay, without talking too much, because that's something I've been working on to get the intros shorter and shorter, I am going to get straight into this one. So for this video, we have David Splane. This is the update number 9, I believe. Yeah, this is the update number 9 for 2021. I have no idea what this is going to be about. I'll be watching it with you live for the first time. So let's see together. Let's see together and make sure I'm looking in the right place. Yes, I want to look over there. What David Splane has to say for himself today. So let's get into it.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, I don't believe I have the sound. So let me fix that. My son gets on this computer and turns the sound down. Okay, let's go again. Okay.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi, David.
In this update, I thought we might reflect on Jehovah's goodness.
Oh.
And the way he's been guiding his people during the pandemic.
Okay. I know it's so early. I'm going to pause. I do this every time. Reflecting on Jehovah's goodness. That sounds harmless enough. Now, the only problem with that, as it is with a lot of their videos, is being able to prove that it's Jehovah's goodness and not just stuff that happens. But on the surface, reflecting on Jehovah's goodness, proof or no proof, that sounds pretty harmless. Let's see which rabbit hole we go down today.
We all agree with the words of the psalmist, found at Psalm 27 and verse 13. Where would I be if I did not have faith that I would see Jehovah's goodness in the land of the living? Where would I be?
I know I'm going to pause again, but you know what came to mind for me? Just the last video that I made, it was something to the effect of, there's going to be goodness, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be in physical form. So let's see how consistent the message is going to be, because clearly we're talking about the land of the living, which I presume is this earth as we know it, not something supernatural. So it'd be interesting to hear if there is consistency in the message from update to update, because on the last one, we're just told, yes, there's going to be all of this goodness, but it's not going to be in physical form. It's going to be spiritually. So let's see where this goes. And I'm going to try not to pause so soon again, but I just wanted to mention that.
That's something to think about, isn't it?
No, not really.
How grateful we are to be associated with Jehovah's organization and to benefit from its direction and guidance.
Proof needed.
Especially when we see where we could be in the confused and divided world around us. With your eyes of faith,
so everybody,
do you see Jehovah?
So everybody outside the group is just confused and divided? You're the only ones that are not that way? I feel like a recurrent theme is going to be proof needed, citation needed. Where's the evidence for what you're saying? But that would risk just repeating myself over and over again.
As directing his people today? Now, we know he's interested in our spiritual well-being. But what about our physical well-being?
Oh, we're getting into the physical. Oh, this is good.
Does he care about that? If he does, will he make sure that we get good advice, even on health matters? To answer that, let's consider the promise Jehovah made as found at Psalm 32 and verse 8. This is one we know well, but let's look at this from another perspective. This is Psalm 32 and verse 8. He says, I will give you insight and instruct you in the way you should go. I will give you advice with my eye upon you. So here's a promise that Jehovah will give us the advice we need. But
I have to say, his advice, allegedly, his advice on organ transplants, blood transfusions, parts of the blood itself, I would say it's been pretty diabolical. I would say that advice has been demonstrably harmful, honestly. But let's see where David Splane is going with this. He tends to be the one that's willed out when it's time to get into convoluted doctrine discussions, very, very convoluted explanations of alleged prophecies in the Bible when we're trying to find application upon applications in different scenarios. David Splane tends to be the one that comes out for those. Make of that what you will, but either he fancies himself or they fancy him as the person who what's the word I'm looking for, more likely to sound intellectual and very smart. So let's see where he goes with this.
But advice on what subject? Think back to the days of Israel. Was Jehovah interested in the health and safety of his people back then? He certainly was. He instructed the Israelites to quarantine the sick. He told them not to eat unclean birds and animals because doing so could have been harmful for their health. And he insisted that they build a parapet around the flat roof of their homes so no one would fall off. He loved his people. He wanted them to be safe.
Right.
Jehovah hasn't changed. He still cares about the health and
apart
safety
from
of
the
his
times when he changed his mind. Yeah, he hasn't changed. Watch my video about the blood policy and see how many times he's flip-flopped. So Jehovah doesn't change apart from the times when he allegedly changes. So it's either he actually does change, or you lot are full of BS and are saying whatever you think without actually any input from a Jehovah. Which one is it? Because your policies have changed. So either you're making it up or Jehovah can't make up his mind. They both can't be right. But you cannot say that things haven't changed because we have documented written proof of you changing your mind.
people. Now, in the psalm we just read, he promised to give us insight, instruction, and advice. How does he do that today? He does it by means of his organization.
Wow.
In some countries, there's been considerable confusion and disagreement over how to deal with the pandemic. Some chafe at the idea of wearing masks, and they refuse to practice physical distancing, even when these precautions are required. We're reminded of Paul's words at 1 Corinthians 14:33. Remember that one? God is not a God of disorder, but of peace, the Bible says. The disorder we see in the world is proof positive that Jehovah is not with them. But from Jehovah's
I don't know about
organization,
that, David.
we've had clear direction from the very beginning.
No, you haven't actually. You actually haven't. At the start, I don't know, was this Tony Morris that was saying how this was all going to be over in no time? Now, I have to say, in terms of following the science, they have been consistent as far as this pandemic is concerned. So they haven't really outright gone against it like they have in other issues in the past. So I will give them that. But they have been following the science. It's not anything that they've come up with on their own. They've not shared anything that science hasn't shared. So I don't know. It's really nothing to make you sing and dance about. They have merely repeated what the science said, So while I will give them credit for consistently following what the scientific consensus is in terms of the advice that they've repeated, they haven't really come up with anything on their own, David Splane. So let's hold our horses here.
And we thank Jehovah for it. For example, think of the information we've received through recent governing body updates. This is evidence of Jehovah's loving direction.
No, not really.
His goodness.
You're not the only organization doing that.
Brother Lett made a very important point. He reminded us that the information we're receiving regarding the pandemic is prepared by faithful brothers. We can trust them. They aren't motivated by some personal view or political agenda. They love us. They want the best for us. I hear someone ask, what do they know? Wrong question. I think the right question is, what does Jehovah know? It comes down to this, friends.
There's really been no proof of any Jehovah in all of this. This is the sort of thing that if I was still in, like I'm sure my family is feeling right now, they would be very impressed by it. It will sound really impressive. But when you're outside and you're not just consuming the material that they deem appropriate, you know that it's nothing special. There are organizations, lots of them, who have done exactly the same thing, advise their members in line with the science, is absolutely nothing special. So, yeah. When you're outside, then you see how unimpressive this is. This is what we should expect. This is what you should do. So it's really nothing special, David Splane. But go ahead.
Do I really believe that Jehovah is directing this organization today?
Not really. The evidence doesn't show that.
That Jehovah will give insight to his faithful people so they can remain in the land of the living, as the psalmist said. To repeat the question we often raise in field service, does God really care? Would Jehovah allow the governing body, the helpers, missionaries, a huge percentage of the worldwide Bethel family, and other full-time servants to engage in practices or receive a COVID-19 vaccine that would be harmful?
Okay, careful, Splane. Be very careful there. You're getting into the Jehovah's Hand territory now. You are getting into, what's the word I'm looking for? You're getting into crediting Jehovah's Hands for things where it becomes that area where you're trying to pick and choose, because people have died on both sides. Mostly unvaccinated, but also vaccinated. So you got to tread carefully here. If you're going to evoke Jehovah's hand in things, then be prepared to take everything. And the arrogance of listing, will Jehovah allow the governing body, the helpers? What makes you think you're special? What makes you think you're better than anybody else, where Jehovah is going to be particularly interested in you being vaccinated, what vaccine you have ahead of everybody else? Be very careful. There's like arrogance coming through, and there's absolutely nothing to back that up.
Surely, Jehovah wants the brothers at World Headquarters to continue providing spiritual food.
Why?
He wants to make sure that the work continues at our branch offices.
What's the proof of his vested interest?
We have to be in the land of the living. And what about the prophecy that a great crowd which no man can number will come out of the great tribulation? Our God is definitely not like Pharaoh, who wanted to kill off an entire generation of Jehovah's worshipers. We are convinced that Jehovah cares about the health and safety of his people.
You can be convinced of whatever you want, but if you're going to say that some invisible being cares more about you and your mates and your colleagues and the people that obey everything you say over everybody else, you're going to have to show some kind of proof. And no, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying it's more than everybody else, but because that is the message that you portray time and time again, even in your so-called good deeds that are given just to people within your group. If you're going to make such a claim, you're going to have some proof for that. Then you're going to have to explain why that is the case. David Splane, explain. You know, the arrogance continues, and a lot of things are being said without any evidence offered. Saying you're convinced and saying you have proof is not the same as actually having and showing proof. So, it's a lot of stuff that's being said that, when you actually stop and think about it, the emptiness of it all, of the whole thing sort of comes to light. It wasn't that many episodes ago when we went through the number of your members that actually died. So what about those ones that are quote unquote no longer in the land of the living? What did they do wrong? And why are they not as special? It feels like every single time you trap yourself into the problem of evil issue when you make claims that just falls apart with the littlest bit of scrutiny. It falls apart. Go ahead, David.
And that he will guide us, saying in effect, this is the way. Walk in it, you people. When we embark on a certain course, we always look for evidence of Jehovah's blessing to see whether we're on the right track or not. So, has Jehovah blessed our efforts during this pandemic?
I would say
yes,
there's no
indeed.
proof of that, David.
Well, of course, the pandemic has slowed activities for many of our brothers, especially in areas without good internet connections. Think of everything you've accomplished in recent months.
What about the people that died, David?
Many congregations are reporting record attendances at our virtual congregation meetings. Inactive ones are returning to Jehovah, and how we thank God for that.
My goodness,
our memorial attendance for 2021 reached an all-time peak of 21,367,603.
Doesn't matter.
Many branches have reported new all-time peaks in the number of publishers. But that's not all. You've shown exemplary concern and brotherly affection for one another, proving that you truly are Christ's disciples.
Nothing special happened there,
you
David.
Most warmly.
No, David, nothing special. We've been through this. We've been through this, and it's very convenient. I don't know if you're going to get to it later on, but it's very convenient that you're not mentioning your members that have died, who are no longer here. The only inconvenience is that the work slowed down. Really, David? That's the most important setback of this whole thing? Your work slowed down, but oh no, we have the peak numbers. If you want to get into a bit more detail about the numbers, I'm pretty sure Lloyd Evans is going to do something sort of looking at the numbers in more detail. I don't really get into that stuff. But it's very, it's frustrating. It's frustrating that, when we're talking about the impact of this pandemic, David Splane is talking about the work being slowed down, but never mind, we have peak numbers of people dialing into Zoom, which is absolutely nothing special. It's talking about the members showing kindness to one another. I think part of this is what we covered during the last one, where the kindness or the relief work that's been done is focused on their members, first of all. That is absolutely nothing compared to other worldly organizations who have given during this time to people who they're not in a cult with. They don't expect anything back. There's no coercion from any leadership anywhere. They are given to people who need help, regardless of whether they believe the same thing, whether they have the same faith. You see, now that I'm more likely to be impressed with compared to people in an insular group who help their members, right? There's absolutely nothing special there. I mean, it's nice, But there's nothing special. You're helping people in your own group, and your love is fickle. It's fickle. The moment someone doesn't believe the same as you do, the love evaporates. So again, it's nothing to sing and dance about. And David Splane, we spoke about it the last time. The members are giving of the sometimes very little that they have, while David Splane and his mates sit on billions of dollars, which they're not offering up to help. It's still the members who probably could do with holding on to everything they have, who are still having to do this good work and donation. Really, David Splane, really.
Who can deny that Jehovah is blessing your work? And consider what the Bethel family has been able to accomplish during the pandemic, only with Jehovah's blessing.
Proof
We all
needed.
appreciate our beautiful new publication, Enjoy Life Forever. That was a tremendous amount of work, involving hundreds of hours of overtime.
Of free labor.
But that's not all that was accomplished during the pandemic. What about the monthly broadcasts? We never missed one.
Okay.
Then there are the beautiful videos, our regional conventions, the Gilead graduations, and the annual meetings. All of this was possible because
of
the
free
Bethel
labor.
family stayed healthy.
Okay.
Many brothers and sisters have written to express appreciation for knowing what precautions we're taking at World Headquarters. Why? Simple. Can you think of another group in Jehovah's organization that would be more at risk of infection than the Bethel family? Hundreds of us live together, work together, eat together, share the same surfaces day in and day out. So many brothers and sisters have concluded that what works for the Bethel family is likely to work for them. And now, we're moving into another phase of the pandemic. Wasn't it exciting to see the recent JW News article about the pilot program to resume in-person congregation meetings in selected lands?
How sad.
It's been a long time since we've been able to be together in person. You might be wondering, what led up to the pilot program? Governing body committees have been prayerfully evaluating when and how to resume in-person meetings
some light
safely.
in here.
Earlier this year,
Never mind.
it didn't seem to be the right time to start. Vaccines weren't available in many lands. Infection rates were high, and the Delta variant was rapidly spreading. But in September, the situation started to appear more hopeful, at least in some areas of the world. In October, 17 branches were approved to participate in a pilot program to resume in-person congregation meetings. These branches represent a variety of circumstances and continents.
So people who have had a break for a long
Asia,
time, they're now going to be
Australia, Europe,
chopped back in.
North and South America.
Unfortunate.
Now, the branch committees in all these countries need to consider carefully what the local government regulations are for such indoor gatherings as our congregation meetings. The regulations vary from country to country.
Well, this is the not so interesting part, but essentially, people are going to be asked back in. They are going to be brought back in. Yeah. I think if I was in, I would have particularly enjoyed the break from the face-to-face gatherings. So if I was in, this would be sad news, because it's just a bit more convenient for overall life, not having to go to this thing in person. So yeah, I can only feel sad, really, for the members who now have to go back in person. It's yeah, it's a shame, but carry on, Stephen. Where are they selecting from?
You might be wondering, does this mean that Zoom is going away? We're pleased to inform you that approval has been given for congregations in the pilot program to have the option of holding hybrid meetings, where some attend in person at the Kingdom Hall, while others are tied in via Zoom. As of November 8th, 14 branches have already held their first meetings. As you can imagine, our brothers and sisters were overjoyed to meet together again.
Were they now, David?
Let's hear from a few of them.
When it was announced at the midweek meeting that our congregation had been invited to hold in-person meetings as part of a project,
it'd be interesting to see what the uptake is. This is something I'll be interested to see as well. What happens to the numbers in general when people have the option. I bet this is eventually going to be something that someone rails about, trying to get people back in, because it's there's a bit of a reduction in the amount of control and power you can have on people when you can have them in person versus when there's a bit of space in terms of Zoom. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out for sure. But yeah, let's hear from Maria Rizzuti.
I was so happy that I jumped out of my chair for joy.
Did you?
It was a tremendous emotion.
I couldn't believe it, that it was actually happening. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're coming back. And we walk in the hall and you're like, these are all my brothers and sisters and we're all together. You just felt like you're at home.
Being back at the meetings, I feel like the fire is burning in my heart because of happiness.
Wow, Dennis.
It really felt good. It was lovely to see the brothers and sisters coming into the entranceway and to greet them. It was so great.
I wanted to go and give somebody a very big hug, but since I couldn't, I would go to mom and dad and hug them and say, this is for this person.
Oh.
Being able to be at the Kingdom Hall, I had to pinch myself to make sure I'm not dreaming.
I hope you're staying safe, guys, because if anything goes wrong, this organization is not going to stick up for you. So, I really hope you're staying safe. I really hope you are thinking about your welfare and your well-being, because history shows that when it comes down to it, the governing body is really in it for themselves. So that's all I've got to say. On a side note, lovely views of the different places. I, for one, it'd be nice to be able to travel again. It would be nice to get into some of these beautiful places, but I just hope that these people are looking after themselves, because this organization is not going to.
On the way there, we were really excited. And when we finally went inside, seeing the friends, hugging them, it was really an indescribable feeling.
If you'd like to take your seats, we'll get our meeting underway.
To hear the singing, even with the masks on, it was really encouraging.
I love the singing. I think everyone got better over the 18 months.
On a side note, I'll say as someone who loves music, I think perhaps the singing was one of the the nicer memories, not because of the people singing around me, but it's just out of an enjoyment for music in general. So if I was going to pick something that was probably not as awful a memory, it will probably be the singing, but then, not paying attention to the words in general, because I think once you do, and some of the words are quite horrific, but just sort of music in general and singing, it is something that I like. So that's a bit of information about me on a side note, but moving on, it's not the only place that you can get singing. There's beautiful music in a lot of places, and even ones without words that are as horrific as some of the ones we have here. But just saying that.
But to practice, it was beautiful.
Oh, She's getting emotional.
It felt like going home to my family. Being able to sing together with brothers and sisters in person, being able to stretch my hand again. We all
So you
in
couldn't
our
stretch your hand the
congregation were
whole time?
delighted to be part of.
Well, lady, I think we should fix that. But anyway, just on a side note, I think for people like myself who don't just leave this group, but leave religion in general and lean more to the agnostic atheist side, this is one of the things that it tends to be missed, sort of the social side of things, the social side of being in a group like this. And I think there is still some work to be done there. But that is one of the things that can be missed. And a lot of the time is why a lot of people stay. You know, those social, those family, those, you know, friendship gatherings that you're going to miss when you leave a group like this. It certainly is not the only way to get that, but somehow I think that is something that organized religion as a whole has currently got a bit of a monopoly on. So there is work to do there, and I completely understand why something like this can feel emotional. Being back in a group feels like part of a community, not just with the witnesses, even church in general. But the thing is, you know, you cannot substitute that for questioning whether something is true, whether something does the greater good. Those are two separate things. So I can absolutely relate with the feeling of being back in a community. That is definitely something there, and I have no reason to believe that these testimonials from people are fake in terms of how they actually feel, because I get that. It's just a shame that they're getting that from a group where the leadership is less than honest and actually causes harm. It's a shame that that sort of genuine need for human connection and community comes in such a awful package.
Of it.
Being at home is more comfortable, but you can be distracted by any little thing.
Exactly.
Being here is much better because we pay more attention to the meetings.
You might think about other things.
I was baptized in 2020 during the regional convention. It's now over a year since I got baptized, but this is my first time at the Kingdom Hall as a baptized brother.
Since it is my first time at the hall at a meeting in person, I felt so happy and also nervous because I had to meet the brothers and sisters in person.
I knew some of the older ones were a little bit apprehensive about coming to the meetings, but there they were at the meeting, loyally attending, and that actually was a very encouraging experience.
Okay, that's enough
Going back
now.
to the Kingdom Hall and seeing my brothers and sisters was something so beautiful. Hearing their voices live, no longer from a computer,
That's
seeing
enough
their
now,
eyes sparkling with
David.
joy, shiny with emotion, made me feel an extraordinary emotion inside the heart.
Jehovah has been taking good care of us through the governing body, and now that we got the chance to experience this, we're very thankful for the opportunity to serve Jehovah, to meet together. It's been very, very nice.
Meeting together with brothers and sisters is
That's
what Jehovah
enough
God
now.
wants.
This is how they bypass
Jehovah
logic.
created us for that, to be together, to live in unity.
It was an upbuilding experience. It was beautiful because it strengthened the spirit of belonging that we find only in Jehovah's people.
rolling
And that's
my
why
eyes.
I can only say thank you, thank you, thank you, Jehovah.
Well, that was exciting, wasn't it?
Was it?
If you're like me, I'm sure we're all anxious to get back to these in-person meetings.
Well, not for
Based
you
on the
guys,
results of this
David.
pilot program, we hope that additional congregations can be approved to resume in-person meetings in the months ahead. In the meantime, we can continue to pray for Jehovah's guidance and blessing on these arrangements. So, dear friends, let's keep focusing our eyes on the one who is invisible, trusting that our God loves us and that he will never allow his people to come to harm.
Except
May
the ones
Jehovah
that died,
continue to
David.
bless you all richly.
Are you
From the
done?
world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
Okay, so that was David Splane. Let me stop sharing this. Yes, so that was David Splane in the focusing on Jehovah's goodness update. Now, as far as the updates go, this did not feel very much in character for Splane. It felt uncharacteristically straightforward, which is good for my nerves. Good for my nerves. I didn't find myself boiling like I have in previous ones. But still, I think the overall theme for this one for me was a lot of claims being made, and the claims themselves are almost being offered as the evidence where there isn't nothing. It's the manipulation of emotions and connections and all of that, all in the furtherance of the agenda of a group who is increasingly these days a property company. Less so on the printing side, but printing and property, who cover up some of the worst of human society with the policies that they have. Demonstrably wrong claims that are being made about things never changing when we know that they do. So it's more a lot of the background stuff that we know that don't add up with the claims that are being made here. And you know how I said at the start, let's see if we're going to have some consistency. Well, a lot of things were just ignored. The death within the group just not even mentioned at all, not even in passing, which I would imagine someone in the group who's lost family members, that could rub off the wrong way. It's like, why are we pretending everything has been good when actually there are thousands that have died? But of course, that's not convenient to the narrative. So we're going to pretend that didn't happen. No, but as far as new material that would be fury inducing, there wasn't so much more. Shame about the manipulation at the end, people crying, people just being overwhelmed with emotion about being in person. Like I said, I completely get that, especially in a group that is insular like this, where these are the only people that you're allowed to spend time with, be friends with. There's a lot of strong connections that are formed, never mind the fact that you're meant to turn it off like a tap as soon as somebody decides they don't believe anymore. But when this is all you have, then you can understand why strong connections can be formed. It's just, like I said, a shame that it's in this context. So people are going to be brought back in person, like we saw there. Like I said, if I was in, that would be bad news, because it's sort of back to the heavy control, back to being watched. I'm sure they were still being watched, whether they logged in or not, but this is now in person. And so they're going to have the scrutiny again of what they're wearing and, and all of that, which is, I shudder the thought of having to be back in a group like this. I think for me, that would be something of a nightmare. But, that was update number 9. I think I've said everything that I want to say on that. I'm sorry with the lighting thing in the middle there, but we are finishing with a bit of light. I'm literally having to hold the switch to keep it on. I daren't move my hand in case it makes it go off. But I want to hear your thoughts as well on this one. Is there something that I missed? Is there something that I didn't pay attention to? I know I stopped a lot at the start, so I tried not to stop so much in the middle, so this didn't go on for too long. But yeah, let me know if there's anything that I missed. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, your comments. If you are someone who is female, i.e. physically in but mentally out, how are you feeling about having to go back in person? You know, do you share the thoughts that I think I would have? You know, is it one of dread, like, oh no, I've got to go back in again? Or, you know, does it not matter? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, well, have a fantastic week ahead. It's Sunday, coming up to Sunday evening for me now. So I'm going to go, you know, upload this up and then, yeah, and then get ready for the week ahead, which is going to be a short week. So that's something good to have some time off to rest. As I mentioned on the last one, I started a new role, got into management. So I'm about a month in now. So I just wanted to have a couple of days just to assess how it's been and before I go in for the next run. Okay, well, have a fantastic week ahead, like I said. Like, comment, subscribe, and share it if you want, and I will speak to you. Should be in about 2 weeks. So I'm going for every 2 weeks now with these. So let's see how we get on. Let's see how we get on. All right, take care, guys. Speak to you in the next one.